in my city, Sint Niklaas, it's not a big city, but we have all the advantages of big cities. We have cinemas, shops, we've got good restaurants, we've got nice bars, but we don't have the big problems that big cities have. So, in fact, for me, we have the perfect size, but yet there's this little voice in all of us that says, maybe we do have a traffic issue or a mobility issue in our town. Maybe not as big as the big cities, but still you feel that traffic is a burning question with people. And therefore I'm very proud that together with the inhabitants of Sint Niklaas, we actually wrote our sustainable urban mobility plan. We spend a lot of time with the citizens talking about the issues, but also discussing the possible solutions, aided by technicians, of course, and engineers. But it's interesting to see that we've come to a point where we have a mobility plan that is supported by a big chunk of our population. I think first of all, what is important is that you set your goals and you make sure that the goals that you set are easy to understand and easy to support. We've set out our mobility plan by putting forward more road safety and more well-being in the city. And these are two objectives that people can understand and almost always will support. But choosing these ambitions have consequences. You need to achieve them, and you set out strategies which are general enough to again get the support. And we had 4 main strategies: make biking the most evident way to get from A to B, get your bus transport very effective and efficient so that you have a high frequency and thus a high quality, send cars around the city instead of straight through by improving the road infrastructure around your city and implementing a circulation plan. And last, very important to get also the shop owners on board is make sure that the parking space that you have is easily accessible and avoid people having to look for parking space. And those 4 strategies, they should lead to better accessibility of your city, better environment, and making the city center within reach for everybody. And that's something that everybody can understand, and that's where everybody can get behind. So not only the goals, but also the strategies. And so if you have already reached that point, that it's self-evident that these are the actions that you need to take, everything else is easier. But you need to have a good story. If you don't have a story, don't start with it. Storytelling is, mobility is very abstract, if you wish, in the expert's mind. It's about numbers, it's about networks, it's about means of transport. But that's not how people think. People think in 2 dimensions: is how do I get from A to B in the most efficient way? And the second is, what is all this traffic doing in front of my doorstep? And these are the 2 things that are important in terms of mobility. When you go out and tell the story, as I said, with clear objectives that everybody can live with clear strategies to get to where you want to go, you need to embed in your story the 2 aspects. And you need to say to the people, we're going to make your life better, your well-being better, life in your street will become better. But in order to do that, we're going to have to take measures which could have an impact on you moving from A to B. And so putting those 2 elements in the story is not only being truthful, because you cannot eliminate traffic in one street without it having consequences on the person who moves from A to B. So it's not only truthful, but it also opens up a dialogue between people living somewhere and people moving through where that person lives. And you need to put those groups together so that they can understand what the positives are and the negatives. And so we put merchants, shop owners together with people who live in the different districts where there is too much traffic. Or we put different districts together so that people can learn from each other. Or we put people from one street and another street together so they see that what they are proposing is not so simple. And you have a good story, but you need to be truthful as well and put those two elements together, and then people understand better, and then you can move further with implementing. In the implementation phase, you've got a second element of people support is when you go into implementation. What we usually do is, if it's possible, we show either very detailed plans, we explain them, and then we have people coming to look at the plans and then asking questions in a one-on-one, because not everybody likes to ask questions in a big group. And when we implement plans, whenever it's possible, we use a 3-month period to assess the impact of what we're doing. Now, by saying in advance that you will try something out, and if it doesn't work, you'll stop it in 3 months, you take away a lot of the pressure on yourself, you take away a lot of the pressure on politicians in general, but it allows people also to think about things and give suggestions to us, and very often we follow the suggestions that people are giving us. So that's how you make storytelling. You link it to an implementation phase where you say you'll still be able to change it, you'll still be able to tell us what's wrong with it, and have implementation of these measures go about. And sometimes we have to reverse something, but that's just the way it goes. I talked about the percentages of people who are in favor of a car-free center. 60% in cities, 20% of the people are in favor of a car-free center for the small communities and small municipalities. But again, the question is wrong. The question should not be whether you want a car-free center, because it's a measure, it's not a goal. What is the goal? The goal is more road safety, the goal is more well-being. The goal is to create space for people, not for cars. That's what you need to put forward and ask. So when you ask people, are you in favor of more room for people? Are you in favor for more well-being? Are you in favor of more road security? They will say yes. And that's why it's so important to have a good storytelling. Mm-hmm. It's because that's what you want to achieve. You don't want a car-free center just for it to be car-free. Yeah? You don't want 30 kilometers an hour because you want 30 kilometers an hour. No, you do it for safety reasons. You want to do it to make it to make your town live again. That's what you need to do. Big mistake that a lot of people make. We do use role models in explaining what we want to achieve, what our ambitions are, and I think in the first place we need to be ourselves role models. The mayor and the alderman, the majority of them use the bike, and we are seen everywhere with the bike. We go everywhere within the limits of the city on our bike, and I think that's an important first move. When we go out and explain things to the people, or we go to the districts and we want to introduce a new measure, we always use images of normal people, of people you see every day, and we try to diversify the image. When we started the biking campaign, we made sure that we had a mother with children, that we had a businessman in a suit, that we had your average Joe, I would say, on a bike, and on different types of bikes. on a race bike, on a tricycle, whatever. So we use images to show people that what we want to achieve is not specifically for a minority or a specific group, but that we're aiming at everyone. When we're not doing that, like when we talk about freight transport, then we're going to use imagery which is more abstract. And because we're targeting a specific group of people, and we're going to use that in our communication also with targeted communication means. I've made a habit out of it in explaining mobility plans, test phases, measures myself, instead of sending engineers or the mobility expert of the city. First of all, because it's not about, when you go outside, it's not about techniques, it's not about difficult calculations, it's about what people live every day. And if I cannot explain it, surely the people won't understand why we are doing certain things. So if I can understand it and I can explain it, then I'm sure that we can bring the message across much better. Second of all, the fact that these experts work for the city council, and the city council has given them goals, I think it's only fair that politicians themselves should go out there and have people, not literally, but have people shoot at them instead of shooting at the technicians. Because you as a politician make policy, so you should be able to explain why you're taking these measures. And again, you need to have a good story. Keep in mind what the goal is that you want to achieve, and keep bringing that back to the people. Yes, we're implementing a 30 kilometers an hour policy. Why? Because we want more road safety. That's what we're trying to achieve. My message to all of you would be, don't be afraid to make difficult decisions. They are never easy to take, but always keep in mind what you're trying to achieve. Try to put that into words that people understand, so they understand why you are doing this. Once you've done that, and people have accepted those goals, everything else will become easier.